a lot of hate against foreigner drivers.
Why
Because
is
you want me to use questions? They're just a truck driver, a dumb truck driver.
Hey, but you got to remember, I'm in the industry. You're not.
welcome to the Truck Stop Show. Today we're joined by Gagan, who is a mechanic, and historically he has been a truck driver for some time. I do know this. And we'll talk to Gagan about his life in trucking and his experiences. Gagan?
Yeah, been a truck driver before. Now I run a transport truck repair shop. It's called Pro One Truck Repair and Tires. We're based in Acton. Yeah,
And what do you guys do?
we do pretty much everything. So from oil changes to major repairs, engine rebuilds, transmissions, diffs, DPF systems, SCRs, whatever required. Our complete after treatment repairs. Pretty much
Right.
everything. Yeah.
So, Gagan, tell us about the journey of yourself. So, how do you become a truck driver? And then, how do you become a mechanic? How do you do this transition?
Okay, so I used to work on cars as a hobby, and then I started just kind of focusing on a car repair like a career. I used to work at Canadian Tire. I did that for 4 years. I didn't write my ticket at the time, and I
Ticket
was
means
ticket me license,
license.
right? So I didn't write the test for the license for 310S for cars.
Mhm.
And a friend of mine used to drive, and my cousin used to drive, and they're really good drivers. So they kind of
Drive trucks.
drive trucks, yeah.
Mhm.
And they said should try trucking, right? And I got my AZ in 2013, and I drove for 2 years. The company I used to drive for, they just had drive units. They didn't have any trailers, so it was like agency company, right? So we used to haul pretty much with all major carriers, right? Bison, Triple Crown. They had a hybrid trailers, by the way, train and like a rail and road trailers. It was quite good learning experience. But the thing was like my family in general, they said like you studied, you went to all your experience, you're young, you're gonna drive truck for the rest of your life. So the same company that I was driving for, they had their garage, own shop for truck repairs. So they offered me a job as a truck mechanic for first year. And then they were just doing like basic repairs. They were not doing any major repairs. They had most of their trucks were old before 2007. So all legacy engines. And then and another thing was commute from Guelph to Mississauga was a long commute.
So you lived in Guelph, but you worked in Mississauga.
Mississauga, yeah. The yard was in Mississauga. So drive was like crazy.
Right.
Driving professionally the truck is the easy part. Driving a car after you drive a truck is tiring,
Right,
you get
yeah.
bored. So then I found a job here in Aberfoyle and finished my hours, got licensed for truck mechanic 310T. And then I started working for Kenworth for a brief period of time, and then opened up my own shop.
So what kind of loads were you doing? So what kind of runs? Were you going long haul? Were you doing short haul?
Short hauls and local.
So you never slept in a truck?
I slept in truck. We had few most of the fleet. The trucks were all day cabs, so they have like maybe 6 or 7 sleeper, like a full cab highway tractors.
But would you do like let's say a 500-mile run?
Yeah, went to Montreal and back many times.
Right, right.
Quebec City, Montreal.
So you've tasted a good chunk of trucking.
Sorry.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you do understand how you feel on the road and sleeping in the truck and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So at the time, were you happy to do truck?
It was definitely different.
No, but were you pleased with the work and the pay and all that stuff, or was something inside you telling you not to do this?
So money was good.
Right.
For what it was outside, mechanics were not getting paid well.
At the time.
At the time.
So
Car
drivers
mechanics.
were making more money than mechanics.
Yeah.
So your
Yeah.
preference was, let's say, if I were to say, because I assume you were young at the time, right? So
Yeah.
you want more money than,
Yeah. So like for first year apprentice, back then, they were paying $16-17 an hour. And for trucking, city work, they were paying. We were like on loads, so it wasn't really hourly work. So it was just like load based, like a kind of piecework, right? How many loads you would do throughout the day, and then they paid you according
So,
to
so
that.
a lump sum, how much you took home as a driver at the time?
As a driver at the time, I'm talking about 2014, 15, in a month or just weekly in
In a
general?
month.
In a
Just lump
month,
sum.
I cleared around 6,000, 6 to 7,000 as a driver.
That's a good money at the time.
Yeah.
Huge,
Yeah.
right? And when you came into being a mechanic, how much you took home then?
It was significant drop.
A big
Like
drop.
a big drop, like 2,800.
And how do you
bucks.
live with that?
Bare minimum, to be honest.
But you do understand a lot of people when they go into trucking, they do not leave trucking because nothing matches the paycheck.
Exactly.
Then
Exactly.
they're stuck with it.
They're stuck with it.
But
And
you,
another thing is flexibility, right?
right.
You're no longer 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, or it's a bit of a different lifestyle in general. You know, you kind of have somewhat freedom. There's nobody like I don't know now, but back then there was no dash cams, or there's no inside camera mounted in the dash. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's
I think it's a bad thing. I think it's breach of privacy.
it is breach of privacy.
Inside
Yes.
is a breach of privacy. It
Yes.
doesn't really mean I'm using, as a truck driver, I'm using cell phones or anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, like there are times you don't want to be seen.
Yes.
Especially like I think in trucking, in my opinion, is very harsh on this. If you got inside camera, you are being looked at the whole time,
All
even
time.
though the companies would tell you, no, we don't have no time to look at
Yeah.
you. This, no, but I'm
Yeah.
being recorded
100%.
anyway.
So yeah, it was just living like in low means. I mean, like, didn't do any luxury shopping or anything.
No, but so it's the family pressure. They're like, come on, what are you stuck with? Right?
Yes. So that's another thing. That's the biggest thing. Drivers get hit, and nobody talks about that. That's a family time. You're not time bonded. So let's per se, I'm going from Mississauga to Montreal. Let's say Vaudreuil Dorian, which is the outskirt of Montreal. If everything is good on the road, you will make that trip in like 13 and a half, maybe 14 hours. So within the
in and
book
out?
cycle, in and out.
Mhm.
So drop, pin and drop, like hook and drop, whatever they call it now. So you take a loaded trailer, you drop, and then you pick up another loaded trailer, and you home. But if there's any kind of traffic or anything happens, you're stuck. You won't be able to make it back, and now your day is lost. And if you have any family planned event or any time that you booked for your family is gone now,
Right.
because you now have to sleep. in the
Are you
truck.
married at the time?
I was married at the time.
So, but you don't have kids at the time, right?
No.
But you still have your wife, your parents,
yeah, parents,
your
everything. Yeah,
and they're-
friends and
right.
family and everything.
So they're
Yeah.
basically they have people looking for you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
They put pressure on you to get off the truck and do
Yeah.
something else,
Yeah,
and then you find something that is very close to the truck but not trucking.
not trucking. Yeah,
Right.
but I do I feel the pain of the drivers because I've been there and done it. But then again, not everybody had a family support that I had. So my parents were working at the time. My wife worked at the time. So they helped me, right? It's just general help that focus on your goals, get license, and maybe we see where life goes, right? And it worked in my favor. But a lot of folks, a lot of drivers, they don't have that option. If you're let's per se, I'm not saying that nobody can do that, but if you're 40 plus, you already have kids who are probably ready to go to college, or they almost pass
Yeah, you have more responsibility as a dad, right?
yeah, house to pay for or rent or everything just went up the price. You know what I mean? So if somebody have to leave trucking, per se, make $6,000 to $7,000 or $8,000 now. If they have to start something, they have to start with something year one minimum wage or whatever minimum plus couple of more dollars, right? So, but sub $20 mark if you go into any trade now.
So, do you at this time, right now, in this time and age, do you think it was a wise decision at the time to leave trucking?
I think so. I think so. My parents, my wife, they all looked into this whole scenario of, You leave in the morning, you don't know when you're gonna come back, or you leave at night, you don't know when you're gonna come back. If road is stuck, if you have snowstorms, especially winter time, right? There's like hardly ever was a time where you make it home on a scheduled time that wherever you fixed from leaving, right?
So now, so you did the transitions. So let me ask you this. Let me take you back. So before, I know you said you worked at Canadian Tires, you enjoyed cars and working on cars. When before that, let's suppose when you were in high school, were you thinking of becoming a truck driver or
No,
anything to do with trucks?
no.
What were your goals back then?
I was thinking about just like mechanical engineer. That's what I was thinking.
So something mechanical, but you had no interest in trucks at the
No,
time.
no,
Was any family members that worked in
no,
trucking
no. Not at the time.
at the time?
No.
So you were the only one who broke that barrier and went into trucking,
Yeah,
and then basically
yeah,
transitioned into technician and then
yeah,
become a technician.
yeah.
Right. So how now so that's the trucking, your life as a driver. But now when you come into to the mechanic job, and then of course you had the apprenticeship and all that stuff, and then once you became a mechanic and now you're in the shop. Now truck drivers and mechanics, they have a very special relationship.
Exactly.
Explain that to me.
Okay. So owner operators, mechanics, or like the company owners, right? So another thing is though, there's a lot of shady technicians out there. So with the technology now, you have WhatsApp or multiple other apps, or you send pictures, make videos, and you exchange information. If all these things don't happen, there's always drivers, owner operators, companies. They look at the mechanic as like the wallet drainers,
Right.
right? But technicians, on the other hand, or mechanics, they wanna see a safe truck going on the road, right?
No, is it just you or all mechanics?
I
Because
personally
there's some
do
mechanics that really attack your wallet, right?
that.
It is
They
true,
do.
right?
It is true.
Yeah.
It is true. So I don't work on my own cars as much I used to. In our shop, I don't have a hoist. So if I take my car to, this is just an example. If I take my car to some technician, and I'm being technician myself, and sometimes they tell me something so stupid, I'm laughing inside, and I'm thinking of like,
So you don't
okay,
introduce yourself? So let's
no,
say I'm the mechanic.
I don't tell
You
them
came
nothing.
to me and you didn't tell me who you are. And you're like, buddy, can you fix this?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then they're like, oh, there's $1,000 worth of things need to be fixed, right? And the reason
That
I
would be a
take the
fun
car,
game to play.
it is. So when I take my car to them, I know what job it is, what it's gonna take to do that job. With the internet and the AI tools now available on the Google, you can just put cars, make and model, and what the work you need done. They give you. I'm not saying exactly the same thing, but they give you some idea how much it will cost, right? But sometimes they just give me such a stupid quote that it just gets done. There's a lot of other things just add to it, and that happens with trucking as well.
So,
Right?
so there are mechanics that are trying to rip you off.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. They want to make a buck too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, but like as a technician, ethics are really important. You know what I mean? So you have to be honest. At least be honest with yourself, at least, right? Like you have to look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day when you're washing your face because you're all like
Yeah.
dirty and stuff, right? But you have to look yourself in the mirror and kind of see.
Yeah. So my and I can really shed light on this. So when let's say I'm the owner operator, and if my truck breaks down, and I have to go like take this to a mechanic,
Yeah.
I'm going through a psychological breakdown, at the same
100%.
time. So I come to you, let's suppose, and then I ask you to fix my truck, and the job is not small.
Yeah.
It's going to cost me a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now, majority of the time, especially in this time and age, a lot of truck drivers on tight budget, right?
Yep.
Now, these guys have a little breakdown within themselves once they get to see, once they find out what's wrong with the truck. It's
Exactly.
almost like a family member being at the hospital at a very critical stage, So now, at this time, you can't just be a mechanic.
No.
You gotta be a little bit of
You have to be
therapist,
therapist, sympathetic,
sympathetic, and
right?
you
So,
gotta communicate to them in a
100%.
very fine manner. But at the same time, you gotta tell them the truth. That buddy, it's
Exactly.
gonna cost you tons of money, right?
100%.
So
Well,
how do you? How do you? It's a tough situation, right?
it is
How do
tough
you? So
situation.
how do you manage that?
So I will give you like example. Everybody who works in the trade as a 310T, if they work on Freightliners, so Freightliner have plastic oil suction manifolds, right? And as a technician, there was a service bulletin released by Freightliner a few years back. They found that there was a problem with the oil suction manifold. It's made of plastic. It's submerged in oil all the time, and has like the pipes are made of metal that goes from a oil pump to the manifold, right? And manifold sucks the oil through the base, and then it sends the oil to the pump. And with age and mileage, they have cracks, or the rings just wear out, right? The
It's
rubber.
expensive to fix it.
No, not very expensive, but put in a perspective how expensive it can turn that job into. So do that job is like with the oil change. It's better to get it done with the oil change. It's anywhere between 600,000 to 800,000 kilometers. That's when they. It's kind of general information should get it done around that time, right? Between 600,000 to 800,000 kilometers. And we had a customer come in, and I told him he was a new customer to us, and we told him that hey, your truck reached. He purchased the truck not too long ago before he brought it to us. So around 800,000 kilometers, we told him, hey, you should get the oil suction manifold changed. It's not a very expensive job. Oil change is around $500. The parts, labor, everything, maybe $1,000, right? I know for car guys, it's a big amount. For truck, it's
It's
nothing,
normal, I know. Yeah.
right? That's just normal wear and tear. So altogether, $1,500 to $1,600 worth of job. What happened? He's like, oh, all my friends have Freightliners. They never had that problem. He kept on driving.
So he didn't trust you.
Or he just ignored. Maybe he
Right.
didn't trust me. Maybe he just ignored. 1 year passed by. He put another 120, 30,000 kilometers on it. Now we are almost past a million, around 975 or million. I told him again when it was his annual inspection. I'm like, you're doing so much work, might as well take care of this and just get it out of the way. You'll be good for another 6, 7, 800,000 kilometers. It's a known problem.
Right. So you're guiding him the right thing.
Yes, because he still owe money on the truck, almost $30,000-$40,000 he still owe on a truck. He was making payments on the truck. So what happened? Around 1.2 million kilometers, I receive a call. He said, truck is making noise. There's an engine noise. So I told him, I'll like stop and make sure you have a good oil pressure, make sure there's a coolant, engine oil is okay and everything. He stopped it.
Do you know where he is at the time?
He was in Michigan State. I'm not sure.
So
about
quite
the
far
city.
from the house.
Like good 4 or 5 hour drive. So he's like, what should I do? I told him, I'm like, it's all up to you. Get it towed. He said, I'm going to start it again and see if it makes that noise again. So he started it. He called me back. He was like, there's no noise. So I was kind of surprised. I was like, make sure there's nothing broken underneath or something dragging underneath. Sometimes straps or something can get tangled up underneath the truck. He drove for a good like 30, 40 miles. That's what he said. And engine ceased.
He's dead. The truck is dead.
So smoke started coming out of the intake. And that's when he stopped. Truck actually stopped. It was making such a bad noise that stopped.
Right.
So he brought it to us.
He towed?
He towed, yeah, finally. Got it towed to us. Tow was almost like $5,000
Wow.
from
Where he
US
was.
to here. We were in Aberfoyle at the time. We took the oil pan down. We drained the oil. Oil was all metallic. When we took the oil pan down, now cylinder number 3 connecting rod, 4 and 5, they were completely toast. Main bearings were seized on 3, 4, and 5.
So now the moral of the story is, if he had listened to you, this would have saved him a lot of money.
So the point where we originally were, talking to the guy, he said, "What should I do now?" So first I looked and I was like, I didn't know how to react because I told him this
I was like,
problem
buddy, I've been telling you.
for almost 2 years, 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah.
Almost he drove 400,000 plus
So
kilometers.
you're frustrated on your own.
Yes, I was pissed off on myself. I was like, we should have done it and just build him for it, right? But you cannot make decision on your personal,
even on an
you know,
ethics level, it's
yeah.
wrong. Yeah.
So he said, "What should I do?" So first, my first question was, we should put a used engine in it.
So now, okay. So you're saying his truck's engine is dead at the time.
Yeah.
He needs a new engine in
New
there.
engine, because
From the scratch.
From scratch, because crank shaft was damaged.
Right.
Because so what happens is, when for this particular problem, you have low oil pressure, engine is spinning, there's no oil pressure. So
Right.
crankshaft makes contact physically
Mm-hmm.
with main bearings.
Mm-hmm.
And sometime what happens, they generate so much heat that crankshaft kind of glues together with the
And
main
just,
bearing
it's just dead.
and just spins the main
Right.
bearing with it.
Now, when you tell him that you need a new engine now, so what kind of conversation was that?
So I told him, of like, so he like truck got towed to our shop. We pulled it in with our tow motor. We have a specially kind of jig made for it to get the trucks into the building. So after truck was towed in, oil pan down, looked at it, made a small video, and I called him and I was like, I sent you a video. What are we gonna do about it? We'll tell you later. But just look what the damage is. He looked at it, he like, oh, how much it will be to fix it. So I told him, I'm like, this engine is no longer repairable. We have to either get a new engine or used engine. So he fumbled on the phone, right?
Wow.
So he said, "Are you gonna come to the shop?" He came to the shop, and he just sat down. We had a chair, so
He almost like fell.
he not fell, but he
But,
was like
like,
a drop. He kind of dropped himself, right?
Wow.
Because he owed $30,000+ on it, and now I called a few places around before he came. So find an engine. So engine around for that truck, if we were looking for a less than 1,000,000 kilometer, it was $18,000.
It's big bucks.
That's just for the engine.
And then installation.
Installation is another $4,000 to $5,000, right? Maybe more. A couple of hoses, couple of lines. Some of the plastic lines you don't touch for 1,000,000 kilometer. When you touch them, they break. Plastic lines. So the cost overall was at least like $25,000 to $26,000. So same amount what he almost owed
Owed.
on the truck.
Right. So it doubled.
It doubled.
Yeah.
So to find that kind of funds in trucking is hard,
Correct.
right? And so truck just sat with us for almost 2 months while he said he gonna look for engine.
So now he has no work at the same time too?
He was driving company truck, but he was
Right.
sitting home on because company trucks are not just sitting there; they have to provide him a truck.
Right.
So they apparently after week or two they gave him a truck to work
Mhm.
with. But then again, your payments are still going on that loan.
Yeah. And now you don't have no money coming in.
There you go.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So now, so this type of conversation can be very tough to have
It
with
is.
people, right?
It is, right.
But now, are you doing business at the time? Like, because ultimately you're a business person, right?
Yeah.
So you still have to do business. Now you do know this person is in a bad shape.
Yeah.
His situation is bad, and now your emotions come up, right? As a human,
Yeah.
as a good human, your
Yeah.
emotions, and then you're like, yeah, I know he didn't listen to me, but now it's all messed up. I don't know what to do. So, but at the same time, you still have to feed your family, right?
Yeah,
So you're trying to be sympathetic at the same time. But it's a tough decision, right?
it is.
It's a tough ground to play on.
So another option I gave him, I was like, you just part out the truck,
Just what? Sorry.
part it out.
Yeah,
So take the parts out of the
yeah,
truck
yeah,
and just sell it.
yeah.
If that will give him significant amount back, like sell the transmission alone, diffs or other components. Computers are still good in it. And if you sell them individually, they can give you decent amount of funds back.
Hmm.
But then again, the labor cost of it, removing it and then handing it to somebody, or when you're gonna sell it, all these things. So I was thinking maybe you will make $10,000 or $12,000, or maybe more out of it if you part it out. But if you put it in scrap, they're gonna give you just a scrap value of the truck, and that's exactly what happened. So after sitting at our shop for like 3 months, um, he called the tow company
And they
and
took
they
it.
picked it up.
Yeah. It was he ever recovered? Do you still know the guy?
Yeah, I still know the guy.
So did he recover out of this big loss?
I don't think so.
You don't
He's
think
still driving a company truck, so I
Right.
don't think so. He went back in that route.
Yeah, it's a good story in a way that if he had listened to you in first place, this wouldn't.
Exactly. There's
This
not
was
just us.
controllable, man.
Everything is available on internet now. So
Yeah.
when you buy, let's say you buy a truck or car, do some research. See,
Right, right.
like look at what requires at what
Mm-hmm.
mileage. Certain jobs are required at certain mileage, right? So get those done. But there's still another thing that I see for a company. For companies, not the owner operator. Owner operators are really responsible truckers. I met great guys. Some of them have really good relationships with. We go out for drinking with some of the customers that I deal with, and have very close relationships with them. But the problem is, if like a company drivers, they do tend to abuse the trucks, and I see them all the time. Excessive idle is a major problem in a trucking industry. They don't understand because it's not their pocket. Drivers. I'm not saying all drivers. Some are very careless in terms of not taking care of the equipment. So idle time, what kills the after treatment system, the injector, everything is affected by idle, and some of these trucks, it's not just all drivers' fault. So if you're ordering a truck, might as well put like a bunk heater or something in it.
Right. For
In
the heat.
summertime,
Yeah.
I can understand you can work with the fan, a simple fan. You're maybe not running very hot states. Maybe you're running. It's just a month or two. It's really hot. But winter here, what kills everything?
Right, because the drivers need the heat, and
Heat.
they're constantly running the truck. And the bunk heater, just to be clear, is the heater that runs without the engine.
Without the engine running.
Right,
So
right.
it's good on emissions. Periodically, you need to service them.
Mm-hmm.
And time to time, you should run them in the summer so they make sure they're in good
Right.
working order. And we see a lot of them. A lot of companies, this is one of the most neglected component in truck. If the truck comes with the auxiliary heater, hardly ever service.
Gagan, is trucking a good trade? So let's say
It's
if
an important trade. Without trucking, we will have nothing. We won't have any of this equipment. We won't have microphone. Who's gonna bring? Everything is interconnected. So electronics get delivered, food, medical supplies, fuel, everything, heating equipment, everything is related.
it is
to
important,
trucking.
no doubt in this, but is it a good trade to? Let's suppose you got a kid.
Yes,
If your kid one day asks you, "Dad, I want to be a truck driver," what would you say? How would you respond to this?
it will be hard because every given year, job as a trucker is getting tough.
No, no. Tell
Harder.
me why. Well, with new technologies, computers, a whole bunch of new laws, safety standards, isn't this supposed to get easier?
Supposed to, but they don't serve the same class of people. lot of these things put into place because of insurance reasons.
So you're saying the intention is wrong?
Intention is not wrong, but the use of certain gadgets or certain systems are not well placed with drivers.
Are you in favor of ELDs?
It's a very controversial matter.
It is.
They don't have time. They don't have time. With the ELD, they don't have absolutely no time.
So you think 13 hours in the province of Ontario or Canada is not enough for a truck driver to drive in a day?
13 hours is more than enough time to
Because
drive.
the reason I'm asking you this question is because you are dealing with too many drivers, and when they come to the shop, drivers are very talkative, right? So they're coming in, they're having conversations with you, they're telling you your problems, expressing their opinions, right?
So I'll give you one example. Let's say you're coming from point A to point B, and halfway through the middle, there's a one service area that serve truckers. Let's say they have big enough parking lot. Let's say it's a 1,000 kilometer stretch, and from A to B, around 600 kilometer mark, there's a one service area that serves the trucker. Let's per se he got stuck in traffic or something. Highway closed. Happened. It closed. Now, he was sitting there for 5 hours, 6 hours. Let's per se he ran out of hours. Where are you going to sleep? Soon he started driving. They automatically sends an email to like 6, 7 different people that, hey, this truck is moving out of his time limit. Where are you going to go? Is he safe to just park on the side of the shoulder and sleep? No. So certain
There's pros and cons.
pros and cons of
Right.
e-log.
So Gagan, let's change the topic a bit here. So tell me, so you're saying trucking is a valuable trade,
It is.
but I mean, it's getting tougher and tougher for a truck driver to be in this.
So it's not regulated. Every industry is regulated. So is it a regulator? I don't think so. It's regulated.
Trucking?
Yeah.
I think it's the most regulated industry.
In terms of payment, a pay scale.
Right. Oh, okay.
So pay is not regulated. So if broker charges customer, let's say $20 per mile, what he's giving to the driver? Right? So what owner operator is earning out of it? So
Who's the biggest beneficiary of trucking?
brokers?
It's the brokers?
Broker is the
So
biggest.
not the
beneficiary.
company, not the driver.
Company depends. If they have a direct dealing with the customer, different story. If the company is directly dealing with the customer, their owner operators are somewhat okay, their drivers are somewhat okay, and their equipment is in better shape. But if there's a broker involved, not enough money in there, because broker take a good chunk of change.
Is driving more tough on the body or being a technician more tough on the body?
So on both, I think. Both, I think. Different type of damages you accumulate. It's a hazardous on a smaller scale, but trucking can be fatal.
Can be fatal.
Fatal.
Explain me how.
If you are not control of everything around you. In mechanic world, if you hit here, what's going to happen? If you hit a wrong part, if you hit it wrong way, the hammer can bounce back. You learn from it. There's safety glasses, gloves. There's many PPE equipment available, right? Personal protective equipment. As a truck driver, you're sitting in a metal box. Yeah, it has a lot of wheels and strong braking system, everything, but the car's driving around you. How many times as a car driver, I see a lot of people on their phone all the time. So when I used to drive truck, and because you are so up high, you see everything what everybody's doing.
Yes.
People cut you off all the time.
Sometimes you see stuff you don't want to see.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, it is deteriorating. Your fatigue is different. Your eyes, your brain constantly monitoring the situation. You know, your
Look, and
surrounding.
this is something I actually shed light on a lot, and I think it is one of the most ignored topics in trucking. And uh, with the best of your opinion, because you deal with too many drivers come to you to get repairs done, or like you see them in the yard and whatnot, right?
Yeah,
Do you feel there is a mental health crisis among drivers?
it is. Uh,
Do you find them sometimes, of course they're alone and whatnot, they're lonely and whatnot, right? But when they come to you, they try to converse with you. Do you sometimes see things that maybe this particular person needs some help?
to be honest, sometimes uh, we do see things like they're they're stressed or tired, extremely tired, and then there's sometimes they're not willing to drive for at least like few hours, but then they have a load booked or something happens and the company calling or dispatcher bugging them. It's there's a problem that nobody want to discuss. It's a gray line. Nobody want to touch that
And
area.
that's the health of the driver?
That's the health of the driver.
But why nobody wants to talk about it?
Why would they? They're not important. Drivers are my dime a dozen now. That's what they say. I'm not saying that.
I understand.
Good drivers are hard to find, but there is a crisis of good drivers.
Yeah, that's something I personally think is a big ignored topic. Yeah,
Nobody talks about their
yeah.
mental health, their loneliness. Yes,
Sometimes it's tough on the families, right?
yeah, you have phone, but how long are you gonna talk on the phone?
I think phone itself is a problem.
Yeah, it is. It
It's
is.
not a cure to being lonely,
Yeah.
I think if you're consuming too much of whatever,
Yeah.
that affects your thinking
Yeah.
and
Algorithm
decision
doesn't
making.
help,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
right? Like now, there's um, I'm not sure if I should talk about this topic, but there's a lot of hate against foreigner drivers.
Well, I think I want to talk about this actually. So now you migrated here?
Yeah.
So you come from an immigrant family.
Mhm.
So now, uh, being an immigrant, so migrating to Canada and working as a truck driver, things were probably different when you drove.
Yeah.
And then now you are a mechanic, uh, and then you have drivers come and talk to you. Is there? I'm trying to phrase this in a fine way. How do you see racism in trucking? Is there racism in trucking?
I think there is. Um, we just see things online, videos, everything. There's a lot of, and racism is not particular to one community. That's all the communities. I have a lot of Polish customers, and people call them names. I have a lot of um, Southeast Asian truckers. People call them different name, and then we have South Asian truckers. People call them different names. So it's not just one community is getting targeted. It's like pretty much every
Why?
community.
I mean, ultimately, let's say I'm be whatever color, whatever background, whatever ethnic background, and if I'm a safe driver and I come from a certain community, I mean, I should be appreciated as any other driver, right?
So yes, 100%. So like as a driver, we should look at the driver's qualification rather than looking at somebody's color, creed, or whoever the person is. As long he's a qualified driver, he's a qualified driver. Is the way to look at drivers is abstract and CVR. If they have a history of good, clean CVR and abstract, I'm pretty sure that kind of give you a sign that he's a good driver. He didn't get any major ticket in the last 10 years. No major accident in the last 10 years. So there you go. We have a system in place to find who's good driver, who's bad driver,
Right.
but people go to extent to look into them. I'm not sure.
Uh, well, I mean, there's it's hard. It's stereotyping, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, people from this group are not good drivers, and people from this. Even though, I mean, good drivers don't come in colors and
No.
shapes, and
So here's the thing. Transportation exists everywhere in the world,
Correct.
right?
In any form, yes.
In any form.
Yeah.
So if the goods are getting moved, then there's drivers moving it,
Absolutely.
right? So, yeah, maybe like certain countries, maybe they have a different set of laws, or maybe they're not getting implemented the certain way.
Yeah, safety standards are different. I mean,
Different,
I'm an
yeah.
immigrant myself. I do understand safety standards in Canada and the US, let's consider them one, are much better than, let's say, the country I was born in.
Yeah,
They're different. I agree on this. But then, you come here, and then in order to get the license, you need to follow the procedure.
100%.
You follow the procedure. There's a good ministry standards that you have to meet in order to get the license. Once you have the license and you're on the road, there's enough, I think, scrutiny out there. People do get pulled over and stuff like that.
Another thing, I personally think that there's so getting a license is a one thing, right? But getting trained constantly is another thing. Training inside, not just like holding down to the steering and driving on the highway. I mean, like companies should put an initiative in it, and they should have seminars, driver seminars. They work on the problem that the other company driver faced, or what common problem these companies are having, what common mistakes are getting done by drivers, so they fix it. But a lot of I don't see companies providing that type of training. They should have some sort of a classroom training with the PowerPoint presentation or videos. Millions of hours of videos are available online now.
You know what my opinion is on this? My opinion is because when they have truck drivers safety meetings, let's call them, at least the ones I've attended in the past, there's always a fight at the end.
Yeah.
Because of the mental health crisis I've talked about.
Yeah.
So, sometimes drivers are just not in the right mindset to be in a social place.
Yeah. And another thing is no paid training. So when I was driving in the company, they just call you. They're like, yeah, I was lucky enough that company did have really good gentlemen who ran our safety compliance department. So every 2 to 3 months, he will have like a driver seminar in our company, and it was a training day as well. He will come up with PowerPoint presentations. And if a company had issues with anything, he will discuss. He will discuss on new updates, if there's any changes to like pretty much everything. Road signs were how to read them properly and everything. It was a part of our training and seminar. But I personally think companies should pay. But we didn't get paid for that time, so it's your day off, right? So they will tell you Friday, hey, Saturday we have a training day, or we have a seminar for drivers and owner operators. Make sure you're on time. We didn't get paid.
Right.
So paid training is really important for drivers. They are not making bank. A lot of other people in trucking making good money, but drivers is like the bottom of the barrel when it comes to good wages. They make money basis of their time they put in. 13, 14 hours every day.
Right. Yeah.
So, but people look at the paycheck, but people don't look at the volume of the time.
The time of work.
If you accumulate all the hours, it's like less than $20 an hour when it comes to miles.
Probably minimum wage.
Probably minimum wage.
Yeah. Probably less than minimum wage.
Sometimes, yeah. If you're working per mile, less per se, you got stuck in a storm, you got stuck in a traffic accident. That's it, buddy. You're no longer driving for 2, 3, 4 hours. Sometimes we see Highway 401 closed because somebody crashed into something, and they have to airlift them, and now you're stuck. It's a very, very demanding profession.
It is, yes, no doubt.
It's actually in top 5 most dangerous professions. Driving is top 5 or top 10. Yeah, something crazy.
Gagan, on social, in social gatherings, do you proudly present yourself as a mechanic?
I try not to.
So are you a proud mechanic?
I am a proud mechanic.
But in social gatherings, in family gatherings and whatnot, when somebody asks you, "Hey, Gagan, what you do?" So how do you
I
react?
tell them I'm a technician or mechanic. I
But do
fix
you say that
drives.
proudly, or you say it with
Yeah,
some
I'm like, this is
hesitance?
what I. Everything comes from that, right? So I like what I do.
You right, but and then you're not hesitant to say,
Yeah,
"I'm
I'm
in
not
Greece
hesitant.
all the time
Yeah,
and dealing with oils and stuff." So you're not. So it's a
my wife complains about it.
she does.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
like, you smell like oil all the time.
right. Well, I mean, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. When you
And
come
then how
home
do you
from work.
manage that?
Wow. I don't know. It just, yeah, you just used to it.
Is it a complaint or is like a regular comment? Like
No, it
every
just like sometimes you just come home from work and she like, make sure you put your clothes in laundry and all that because they smell like oil. Because sometimes you get diesel spilled on you or
sure.
something, right? We have
Yeah,
like
that's nature of
coveralls and
work.
everything. Yeah, but like it gets into your skin, right?
Right,
So you
right.
have to take like, if it's spilled on you, you're not gonna take a shower at work because you don't know what next second gonna spill on you. So you come home smelling like garage itself.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, we'll wrap it up and just a few more questions. So because as a mechanic, you get into a lot of trucks.
Yes.
What's the worst thing you've seen in a truck? Gotta tell me one.
Worst. Um, in terms of what? Like,
Anything that you went in and you're like, what the hell, buddy? What is this doing in the truck?
okay. So we're working on this truck, and uh, so guy had a garbage bin sitting in the truck, and there was maggots in it, right? I don't know. Apparently, they were team driver, and they were fighting because who threw what in the garbage, and it was just bugs in the garbage, and there was team driven truck.
And
So
both of these guys lived in that truck.
lived in the truck.
So
Nobody wanted to take responsibility, and they were
changing
always
the
fighting.
car.
They were, that's another thing. When companies send team drivers, they make sure they're somewhat compatible. You know what I mean? They can't just send, because people have different nature, right? Some
Right,
people are very
opinions,
aggressive.
yeah,
Some people are
everything.
very laid back, right? But they have to take responsibilities of the things. They have to keep everything clean. We keep the shop clean. If you look at our shop, it's like sparkly clean.
What's the dirtiest truck you've been in to describe?
Okay, so we have one customer. It's a city truck. So when we go in his truck, he's a nice guy. He pays us on
If he's
time.
dirty, I don't think he's nice.
He's a really nice guy. He talked to you really nicely. It seems like a nice guy, but he's not a very hygienic guy. He don't keep clean. His truck is
How does
extremely dirty.
like dirty in like how?
So he had
dirty
like,
how?
okay, so he had this headset that he uses. So the cover on his like earpiece, it has like a 3 layers built up on it. So whenever we go in his truck, we put seat covers, mats, everything every time we bring the truck in. But for his truck, we have to make sure we put gloves on so we don't like create a new set of disease or something. You know what I mean? Like a new type of fucking virus may emerge from that
Yes.
from the truck.
Right.
So, but I did mention it to him. I didn't
How do you do that?
I told him, I was like, should we get this truck detailed for you? For very discounted price. He said no. I think he's just loved with the smell. But his car is really clean. So I'm not sure why is that. His car is clean, but his
clean himself.
I'm not sure. But truck is super dirty. Like the dash has a layer built up for like a fine dust or something, whatever. It's just built up. Steering wheel is like a paste rubbed on it.
What's your message to the guy who smokes in the truck and the truck comes to you and you have to get in to do something?
So I'm a non-smoker, right? And sometime when I have to get into his like bunk and everything, if it's a bunk truck, like it has a bed and everything. So least neglected thing in the bunk truck is a HVAC system in the bunk. So trucks have two HVAC system if it has a bunk. So one in the dash, one in the bunk. Because you have two different climate system. If it's a team driven, maybe one guy's not feeling really hot enough, so he warms up the truck, and the guy on the back sleeping, maybe he likes sleeping a bit of a cold, so there's like a big curtain in the middle, so he can run AC if you want to run AC. Sometimes we find like a basically tray full of ash got probably sucked in over the time of the truck from smoking. The filter is blocked off, and especially if they have an animal pet living in the truck,
Mainly dogs, right?
dogs or cats in general, they're furry, right?
Yeah.
So lot of cat hair getting sucked in that system, and sometimes you just look at it and you just whoa. So, yeah, we have to clean it. So we have a shop vacuum. We just take the shop vacuum. We just vacuum it out best we can. We have spray nine and some multi-cleaning detergent.
Have you ever refused to get into a truck?
I have once. So I was working at Kenworth at the time, and a truck came in. It's such a stereotype now. It wasn't from the brown community. A truck was built up. Somebody was taking a leak in through the bunk, and
You got a hole in the ground?
not hole in, they had a hose running over the transmission. So it was okay. So we found out the guy was diabetic,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So
So now he
I
has
give
an
you
excuse.
give him. He had an excuse. Well, use bottle, man, if you have to, right, or jug or something. But he had a hose running over top of the transmission, and a hose rubbed through on the transmission onto one of the clamps that he had clamped, and his piss was getting built up over top of the transmission. And it was just a crust build up on it, right? And it smelled horrible.
Yeah.
So we basically kind of figured out there was a funnel at the end in the bunk, right? He had a funnel sitting there, and the hose kind of had a cap on it. And then we had a wash bay at that location, so we took it to the wash bay and washed it. And
That is when
before we
somebody got
served
in.
well, have to do what I have to do, right? But
Gagan, I want to thank you for coming into
thank
the
you
show.
for having me. It was
This
a great time.
can go on for many more hours, but we'll just stop right here. And once again, thank you for
No
coming
problem.
into
Have a
the
good
Truck
one.
Stop Show.
Yeah.